What if I told you that the moment you panic in confrontation, you've already lost? Everyone knows this on the surface, but what they don't realize is that calm isn't just about holding your emotions, it's a weapon. Your raised voice, your rushed words, the anger trembling through your hands, this is how people know you've lost control. They don't see strength, they see desperation. Think back. How many times have you walked away from an argument or a negotiation only to realize you didn't lose because you were wrong? You lost because you lost yourself. This is the brutal truth. The calm man owns the room. He controls the pace, the silence, the very air others breathe. The one who panics, no matter how smart, how skilled, or how strong, is already finished. That's why the rich, the powerful, and the untouchable never let you see them crack. And if you don't master this, you'll always be at the mercy of those who have. But here's the question. What if you could flip the script? What if in every confrontation, whether with your boss, your rival, or someone who wants to humiliate you, you became unshakable? By the end of this video, you'll know how to use silence to make others confess without you saying a word. You'll know how to hold a stare that turns even the most confident person into a nervous wreck. You'll know how to speak so slowly and deliberately that every sentence feels like a verdict. And finally, you'll discover the ultimate state, the eternal calm that makes you impossible to provoke, impossible to control, and impossible to forget. Imagine what that means for your life. In business, no one can rush you into bad deals. In arguments, no one can shake your ground. And when people try to put you in your place, they'll realize you're the one in control. This is why the few who master calm rise to the top, and why the rest keep losing without ever knowing why. The ability to stay calm in confrontation is the single greatest advantage you can possess. When everyone else is swept away by anger or fear, the one who stays composed gains control without lifting a finger. Panic is not simply fear, it is surrender disguised as movement, chaos mistaken for strength. This is why the first law of calm is absolute. Master your stillness, or you will always fight from a position of weakness. The mask of silence is not mere quiet. It is a weapon, sharp and merciless, that cuts deeper than words ever could. Most people, when pressed, betray themselves through sound. They rush to explain, to justify, to defend, as if noise itself can save them. But when you refuse to answer, when you cloak yourself in silence, you expose their hunger, their insecurity, their desperate need to be heard. Silence in confrontation is not emptiness, it is pressure. It forces the other to fill the void, to reveal themselves, to spill secrets they never intended to share. And all the while, you remain unreadable, a fortress without cracks. Understand this. Human beings are terrified of silence. We interpret it as judgment, rejection, disapproval. A pause of 3 seconds in conversation feels like eternity. In confrontation, it becomes unbearable. Your opponent will lean forward, their voice will grow louder, their words more frantic, all in a desperate attempt to force you to react. But when you hold the mask of silence, you become untouchable. They cannot know what you are thinking, they cannot measure your intent, and in their scrambling, they begin to reveal their own weaknesses. This is the essence of Machiavellian control, not in shouting louder, but in saying nothing at all until the moment is most advantageous. Think back to the times you lost your calm. Did you not speak too soon? Did you not rush into words, spilling explanations and defenses before they were even demanded? Did your eagerness not betray your fear? This is the trap silence destroys. By refusing to answer, by wearing the mask, you refuse to be dragged into their tempo. You decide the rhythm of the exchange, and when you decide the rhythm, you control the outcome. You can stretch 3 seconds into 30, and in that stretch, they sweat, they shift, they stumble. Silence makes their confidence collapse into dust. But do not confuse silence with passivity. It is not about hiding forever. It is about waiting until your words can strike with maximum force. A single sentence delivered after long silence is remembered more than 1,000 spoken in haste. Leaders, interrogators, manipulators, all know this truth. The pause is power. The man who speaks last speaks with the weight of inevitability, and the man who refuses to reveal himself too quickly forces others into reckless exposure. If you are calm but not silent, you are only halfway armed. If you are silent but not calm, your mask will slip. But when you combine calmness with silence, you become unreadable, untouchable, and therefore dangerous. Look at history's rulers. negotiators, and generals. The ones remembered are those who held the room without noise. A commander who stays silent before battle plants doubt in the hearts of both friend and foe. A ruler who pauses before answering forces every courtier to second-guess themselves. Silence is the stage upon which power performs. It is the void that makes others feel small. It is the shadow they cannot penetrate. When you wear this mask, you no longer react, you dictate. You do not chase meaning, you force them to project meaning onto you, and in their projections, they reveal what they fear most. You have already felt this power in fragments. The awkward pause after a question you were not ready to answer. The tension in the room when you looked someone in the eyes but refused to respond. In those moments, even if you stumbled, you sensed the effect. Others grew restless, their words rushed, their composure cracked. Now imagine harnessing that deliberately, shaping it like a blade. You would never again need to shout, to argue, to defend. You would only need to remain still, to let the silence speak louder than noise ever could. But silence alone is not enough. A mask must be anchored, or it slips. And what anchors silence, what makes it believable and unbreakable, is the body. For silence to become command, you must master the one force that betrays every man under pressure, your breath. The next law is the breath of command, and without it, your silence will always be fragile. The breath of command is the foundation beneath every display of calm. Without it, silence collapses, composure dissolves, and the mask you wear crumbles into fragments. Breath is the hidden governor of the body. It dictates your voice, your posture, your eyes, and even your thoughts. In confrontation, when adrenaline surges and the heart accelerates, breath is the first thing stolen from you. You gasp, you rush, you tighten your chest, and in that instant, your enemy can see it. Your body has betrayed your mind. If you cannot command your breath, you cannot command yourself, and if you cannot command yourself, you will never command the confrontation. Panic shortens breath. Fear makes it shallow. Anger makes it rapid. Each of these conditions exposes you. Your words come too quickly, your tone rises, your body quivers. Those who face you do not need to be skilled psychologists to notice, they feel it instinctively. The trembling voice tells them you are weak. The hurried sentences tell them you are desperate. The flushed face tells them you are consumed. And once they sense this, the confrontation is no longer equal. They know you are fighting yourself more than you are fighting them. You are busy suffocating in your own chest while they calmly sharpen their advantage. But the man who slows his breath, who inhales deeply, who exhales with control, radiates authority without speaking. His voice steadies, his chest expands, his eyes sharpen. The room unconsciously adjusts to him. Others begin breathing with him, slowing without realizing. This is why true leaders seem to calm or rattle entire groups simply by entering a room. Their breathing sets the rhythm, and the rhythm enslaves everyone present. This is not mystical, it is biological. The nervous system is wired to mirror what it observes, and when your breath is steady, you infect the confrontation with calmness. Even your enemies will feel it, though they will never admit it aloud. Consider the alternative, the man who cannot breathe under pressure. He interrupts himself, he talks too quickly, he gasps between phrases, his words trip and stumble. Every syllable he speaks reveals weakness. Even if his arguments are logical, the lack of breath strips them of power. People do not remember his reasoning, they remember his struggle to speak without breaking. He becomes a caricature of himself, remembered only for his lack of composure. And this is the great cost. You may be intelligent, you may even be correct, but without breath you will be forgotten as weak. To train the breath of command is to train the body as a fortress. You must slow down when the world speeds up. You must breathe deeply when your instincts demand gasping. You must make your lungs the metronome of the room. Each inhale must signal to others, I am not hurried. Each exhale must signal, I am not moved. Even if your heart pounds like a drum, your breath must drown it out, creating the illusion and eventually the reality of calm. Once this habit becomes second nature, confrontation ceases to be chaos. It becomes a stage you control, because while others suffocate, you dictate the air itself. This is why orators, interrogators, and conquerors alike practiced breathing. Cicero knew that pauses made his words more powerful. Generals knew that steady breath under fire made men trust their commands. Even executioners knew that a calm breath unsettled those about to die. The lesson is simple. He who owns his breath owns the moment. And once you own the moment, you can carve silence into command and command into fear. But breath alone does not make you untouchable. Breath steadies you, yes, but you must then project that steadiness outward. You must learn to direct your calm like a weapon, aimed through the eyes. For the next law reveals how to take all the composure you have built within and focus it into a single piercing force, the predator's stare. The predator's stare is the transfer of your calm into the eyes of your opponent. It is not a glare, not rage, not the desperate bulging of someone straining to appear strong. It is stillness focused through sight, a gaze that says, without a word, I see you, I measure you, and I do not flinch. In every confrontation, eyes betray what mouths conceal. They dart when uncertain, they drop when ashamed, they widen when afraid. And those who master the predator's stare, steady and unwavering, force the other to feel the weight of being studied, dissected, and cornered. Few men can withstand being looked at without blinking, without reprieve, without judgment, softened by words. You have felt this before, the discomfort when someone's eyes did not leave yours. You laughed nervously, you looked away, you fidgeted. In that instant, you were already smaller. The stare unsettled you because it exposed the truth. You were not ready to be seen so clearly. In confrontation, when you combine calm breath and silence with this unblinking focus, your opponent begins to crumble. They feel their own nervous system react against them. Their pulse rises, their speech falters, they lose rhythm, and yet you have done nothing but hold your gaze. That is why it is the predator's stare. It hunts without moving, it weakens without touching, it kills without blood. But the danger lies in misuse. If your stare is laced with visible fury, you lose the effect. If it trembles with insecurity, you look pathetic. The predator's stare is effective only when it is empty of panic and full of control. It must feel measured, detached, inevitable, like the eyes of a hawk fixed on prey, or a wolf observing the herd. You must radiate patience and inevitability. You are not challenging them with your eyes. You are telling them their outburst, their threats, their noise mean nothing, that nothing in their performance has moved you. And when they realize this, their power bleeds out of them, one twitch at a time. The secret is not just in the stare itself, but in the stillness surrounding it. Do not flinch when they raise their voice. Do not break when they insult you. Do not drop your gaze when they step closer. Hold as if you have all the time in the world. The silence of your body, anchored by your breath, magnifies the weight of your eyes. Your opponent begins to imagine what you are thinking, what you are planning, what you will do next. And because you reveal nothing, they invent horrors in their own mind. The predator's stare does not require you to act. It forces them to act against themselves. History shows us this again and again. Leaders who could disarm a crowd with nothing more than a look. Interrogators who made men confess without a single question. Warriors who froze their enemies before the blade even touched them. The common thread was never rage, never noise, never frenzy. It was calm eyes that refused to yield. Eyes that made others feel exposed, vulnerable, judged. Eyes that told the world, I will not move until you do, and when you do, it will already be too late. You must practice this until it becomes natural, because in the heat of confrontation, your instinct will be to look away, to blink, to soften, resist. Learn to stare not as a man begging for dominance, but as one who already has it. Look through, not at. See them not as equals, but as subjects of study. In time, your stare alone will do more than any threat you could speak. And once you master this law, you will discover that your words themselves can become more devastating, not because they are louder, but because they are delayed. The next law reveals why the slow reply crushes impulsive enemies. The slow reply is the death of the impulsive enemy. Most people, when confronted, rush to defend themselves. Their words spill out uncontrolled, their tone betrays fear, their speed exposes desperation. They want to fill the silence before it swallows them. But the man who replies slowly, deliberately, turns the battlefield upside down. His opponent speaks, shouts, threatens, provokes, and he waits. He lets their words bounce off the walls, lets them hang in the air, lets them rot under their own weight. And then, only after the silence has pressed down on everyone present, he answers in a measured voice. That voice, sharpened by delay, lands like a blade. A slow reply carries a weight that rapid speech cannot. It feels chosen, precise, dangerous. The opponent begins to wonder what you are thinking, what you are planning, why you are not moved. They second-guess their own words. They replay what they just said, filling the silence with their own fear. This is the cruelty of slowness. It makes the other man fight himself. And by the time you finally speak, he has already lost his balance. The room has already judged him as anxious, and you as composed. He has already given away too much, and you have given nothing at all. Think of the times you spoke too quickly. You rushed to explain, and your eagerness made you look guilty. You snapped back with anger, and your impatience made you look weak. You filled the air with noise, and that noise was remembered as panic. The slow reply erases all of this. By waiting, you create suspense. By delaying, you create doubt. By holding your tongue, you make every word you eventually speak impossible to ignore. Even a short phrase, delivered slowly after silence, can destroy hours of your opponent's performance. The room remembers not what they said, but how your single sentence cut through everything. This tactic does not only protect you, it weaponizes patience. When you refuse to match their tempo, you force them into overextension. They shout louder, thinking volume will move you. They explain more, thinking details will overwhelm you. They insult, hoping to provoke a reaction. Yet all of this reveals their true position. They are dancing, sweating, stumbling in front of someone who simply refuses to be rushed. The longer they perform, the more foolish they appear. And when you finally respond slowly, you confirm what everyone already senses. You were in control the entire time. But make no mistake, the slow reply is not hesitation. Hesitation smells like fear. It is jittery, awkward, uncertain. The slow reply, by contrast, is chosen. It is measured. It feels intentional. You are not scrambling for words. You are sharpening them in silence. You are not lost. You are deciding. And when you finally speak, the calmness in your tone is proof that you were never shaken. This is why so many confrontations are lost, not by poor arguments, but by poor timing. A single slow sentence, delivered at the right moment, is worth more than an hour of rushed defense. The true mastery comes when you realize the slow reply can make even ordinary words devastating. I see. Is that so? We'll see what happens. Simple phrases, spoken slowly, land heavier than paragraphs of explanation. The opponent hears more than you say. They fill in the silence with their own imagination, their own insecurity, their own fear. Your slowness has forced them to become their own enemy. And that is the essence of Machiavellian calm. You never fight directly. You let them destroy themselves while you remain unshaken. But to achieve this level of control, there is a deeper challenge you must overcome. Even if your words are slow, your face may betray you. Even if your tone is measured, your expression may reveal the fury, the fear, the weakness boiling beneath. And so the next law demands mastery over the most revealing canvas of all, your own face. The neutral face is the shield that makes every word believable. The neutral face is the mask that guards everything within you. No matter how steady your breath, how sharp your stare, or how slow your reply, if your face betrays you, the game is lost. Human beings are trained from birth to read expressions. A twitch around the eyes, a tightening of the jaw, the subtle lift of a lip. These betray thoughts you would never willingly reveal. In confrontation, the enemy is watching not just what you say, but every movement of your face, searching for cracks. The neutral face denies them this advantage. It is the blank canvas that reveals nothing, a wall without windows, a mask without openings. Why is this so powerful? Because people crave emotional confirmation. When they insult you, they look for the flinch. When they provoke you, they look for the wince. When they threaten you, they look for fear in your eyes. If you give it, even for an instant, they know they have control. They feed on that signal, pressing harder, growing stronger from your weakness. But when your face remains neutral, their efforts hit emptiness. Their insults lose power. Their threats sound hollow. Their attempts to dominate slide off you like arrows striking stone. The neutral face denies them the victory they came seeking. This does not mean your face must be cold with visible hostility. That too betrays you. A sneer reveals anger. A glare reveals rage. A smirk reveals arrogance. Each of these is still a crack in the mask, still a sign that you are emotionally moved. True neutrality is subtler. The eyes steady but not glaring. The mouth relaxed but not smiling. The brows settled, neither furrowed nor lifted. It is the art of appearing present yet unmoved. This is the most difficult discipline of calm, because your instincts will scream to react, to roll your eyes, to scoff, to narrow your stare, but each of those tiny movements is a confession. The neutral face confesses nothing. Think of the moments where your face gave you away. You said nothing, but your clenched jaw revealed fury. You stayed silent, but your twitching brow showed your anxiety. You delayed your reply, but your smirk betrayed contempt. The other person saw it, and though you thought you were in control, they knew the truth. They could sense your emotion even before you spoke. This is the trap the neutral face prevents. By training your features into stillness, you sever the opponent's ability to read you. They are left guessing, doubting, unraveling in the silence of your expression. This mask is not just protection, it is a weapon. People project their fears onto a neutral face. They begin to imagine what you are thinking, what you might do, what hidden force lies behind your blankness. Some imagine cold hatred, others imagine total indifference. Still others imagine ruthless calculation. None of them know because you give them nothing, and in this fog of uncertainty, they crumble. They cannot fight what they cannot read. They cannot attack what they cannot see. The neutral face is not passive, it is devastating. Yet to master it requires relentless practice. Stand before a mirror and watch your own betrayals. Record your expressions under pressure. Train yourself to breathe while holding your features steady. Soon, the mask will become second nature, and when it does, you will discover that your opponent, unable to read you, will start showing themselves more and more. They will panic in your silence. They will stutter against your slowness. They will crumble against your stare. And then, without even speaking, you can dismantle them. But calmness taken this far unlocks an even deadlier strategy, one that turns their emotions into your greatest tool. For when you master, not just your face, but the ability to reflect theirs back at them, you no longer need to resist their force, you can redirect it. This is the next law, the psychological mirror. The psychological mirror is the art of turning your opponent's emotions against them. Most men, when confronted, either resist or collapse. They push back with their own feelings, or they crumble under pressure. But the rare few learn to reflect what is thrown at them, to use the enemy's own emotional energy as a weapon. When rage is hurled at you, you do not counter with rage, you hold up the mirror. You give them their own fury back in the silence of your presence. When desperation drips from their voice, you let that desperation echo until it consumes them. The psychological mirror forces a man to wrestle with himself, not with you. People cannot bear to see their own flaws clearly. A man screaming sees himself reflected in your calmness, and suddenly realizes how small, how ridiculous he appears. A manipulator pouring out charm grows uneasy when you respond with nothing but a flat echo of his tone, making his performance look hollow. An aggressor throwing insults feels the ugliness of his own words boomerang back onto him when you refuse to show hurt. The mirror is merciless because it does not attack, it reveals, and the revelation is far more destructive than any counterattack you could launch. This tactic works because human beings project. They pour their inner storms onto whoever they confront, expecting that person to carry the weight, to react, to validate the performance. When you refuse to absorb it, when you refuse to give them your energy, they are left drowning in their own reflection. They expect to fight and find only themselves. And few things are more terrifying than being trapped alone with your own ugliness, magnified in the gaze of another who does not flinch. But this art requires discipline. If your mirror cracks, if you show even a flicker of your own emotion, the spell is broken. You cannot half reflect and half react. You must reflect entirely. Your calm stare, your neutral face, your slow replies, your silence, all of these create the perfect mirror. And in that mirror, the opponent loses control. They begin to wonder if they look weak, if they sound foolish, if everyone watching sees what they now feel. And in that self-doubt, they unravel. You did not defeat them, they defeated themselves. Think of the last time you argued with someone who stayed calm. You shouted, but they did not. You gestured, but they did not. Slowly, your anger began to feel embarrassing. Your words began to sound childish in your own ears. You began to feel like you were losing control, because compared to their calmness, your storm looked pathetic. That is the psychological mirror. You were beaten not by their strength, but by the reflection of your own weakness. This is the secret most people never understand. Confrontation is rarely won by overpowering the other. It is won by making the other man overpower himself. The mirror does not fight, it reveals. And once a man sees himself clearly in the heat of conflict, he cannot escape the shame, the fear, the exposure. That is why the psychological mirror is more than a defense. It is the quietest form of domination. Yet reflection alone is not enough. A mirror shows, but to fully control the confrontation, you must also shape it. You must learn how to guide the perception of the room, not just with stillness, but with deliberate, precise actions. This is where the next law begins, the calculated gesture, where posture, hands, and movement decide outcomes. The calculated gesture is the language spoken when words are stripped away. In confrontation, most people betray themselves not only through their faces, but through restless, chaotic movements. The tapping of fingers, the shifting of weight, the clenching of fists, each one signals nerves, insecurity, or loss of control. But the man who understands the power of calculated gesture turns the body itself into a weapon. He moves rarely, but when he does, it lands like thunder. A single step forward can silence a room. A single raise of the hand can freeze an enemy mid-sentence. A single tilt of the head can communicate authority more devastating than 100 words. What makes a gesture powerful is not its size, but its timing. The nervous man moves constantly, bleeding power with every twitch. The calm man waits. He holds still until the moment arrives when his movement cannot be ignored. This patience magnifies everything he does. A slow lean across the table, an intentional pause before sliding a document forward, a deliberate folding of hands, all of these radiate control. The opponent feels it not because the movement is violent, but because it is deliberate. The body becomes an extension of the mind's discipline, and discipline is feared. History proves this. Leaders who could silence entire assemblies with the lift of a hand. Generals who stood motionless as cannons roared, until one step forward sent waves of courage through their armies. Interrogators who leaned in just enough to make the prisoner feel suffocated without ever raising their voice. Each used movement like a scalpel, cutting not the flesh but the psyche. This is the essence of calculated gesture. It manipulates perception without spilling effort. But remember, the gesture must always be congruent with the calm mask. If you move while showing nervousness, you magnify weakness. If you gesture while your voice trembles, you double your exposure. The calculated gesture only works when it is born of stillness, when the room senses that you could have remained motionless forever, but chose to move now, and only now. That choice is what creates dread. It tells the opponent, I control even the smallest details of myself, and therefore I control you. Think of the last time someone leaned in too close during an argument. Their proximity rattled you, not because they shouted, but because their presence invaded yours with precision. Or think of the last time a man in authority stood up slowly in silence before speaking. That rise was more commanding than any scream. These are not accidents. They are weapons forged by restraint. The enemy who cannot control his hands waves them wildly, bleeding away his dignity. The enemy who cannot control his posture slouches, revealing fatigue and fear. Meanwhile, the one who moves with purpose forces every eye to follow, every heart to quicken. You must train your gestures as you train your words. Walk into confrontation aware of every limb, every step, every tilt. Eliminate the unnecessary. Cut away the fidgeting, the nervous scratching, the restless shifting. Replace them with stillness, and from stillness, unleash only what is chosen. The result will be terrifying for those before you. They will feel your presence, not as noise, but as pressure. And when that pressure builds, you will discover that the greatest gesture of all is not to step forward, but to step away. The next law will reveal why withdrawal, timed with precision, is not surrender, but the final proof of command. The strategic withdrawal is the art of ending the confrontation on your terms. Most men think walking away is weakness, a sign that they could not endure. But this is only true for the man who flees in panic. To withdraw calmly, deliberately, at the moment of your choosing, is not weakness, it is dominance disguised as retreat. It says, I decide when this ends. I am not bound to your fury. I am not chained to your noise. I am above it, and I leave because I choose, not because you forced me. Nothing disarms an opponent more than realizing that all their energy, all their effort, has failed to anchor you. Withdrawal has a devastating psychological effect. Your enemy expects you to stay and fight, to prove yourself in the dirt. They expect to provoke you into defending, into justifying, into clawing for ground. When you deny them this satisfaction, when you step back in silence, they are left suspended in their own momentum, swinging into air. The louder they were, the more humiliating their collapse becomes, because your calm exit exposes their frenzy as meaningless. They fought a battle you never even joined, and now they stand alone, ridiculous, still shouting at shadows. But for withdrawal to be strategic, it must be executed without rush. If you storm out, you look defeated. If you fidget and hesitate, you look afraid. True withdrawal is unhurried, almost regal. It is a slow rise from the chair, a controlled step backward, a glance that says nothing yet everything. It leaves a silence so heavy that others fill it with their own judgment. He left because he could, not because he had to. The opponent feels smaller, reduced, because your absence is louder than their presence. You haunt them with what you did not give. This law is ancient. Kings withdrew from negotiations to make their enemies stew in uncertainty. Generals retreated, not because they were beaten, but to force the enemy into overconfidence and ruin. Even in personal disputes, those who master the art of stepping away at the perfect moment gain respect that clingers and shouters never do. The world learns quickly. You cannot be trapped. You cannot be baited. You cannot be forced into dancing to another man's rhythm. You exit when you wish, and that is the purest form of power. And yet, this power is not easy. Your pride will demand you stay and fight. Your ego will scream that leaving looks like defeat. That is the trap. The fool cannot leave because he is enslaved by appearances. The wise man withdraws because he knows appearances are illusions, and control is the only reality. The room does not remember the noise of your opponent. It remembers the silence you left behind. That silence grows into legend, retold in whispers, exaggerated in memory, until you seem larger than you were. This is the paradox of withdrawal. Leaving makes you more present than staying ever could. But what if you reached a place where even withdrawal was no longer necessary? Where your calm was so complete that no confrontation, no provocation, no storm could move you? This is the final law, the eternal calm, where the man who cannot be provoked becomes untouchable. The eternal calm is the summit of power in confrontation. It is the state where no insult, no threat, no surge of chaos can stir even a flicker within you. The man who reaches this level is not acting calm, he is calm. His composure is not a mask held by strain, but the natural rhythm of his being. This is the rarest and deadliest weapon, because while others are trapped in storms of emotion, you stand outside of weather itself. They shout, you do not move. They accuse, you do not bend. They plot, you do not waver. The eternal calm makes you untouchable, not because the world stops testing you, but because no test can enter your fortress. Most men believe calmness is temporary, something they must summon in moments of crisis. But this makes calmness fragile, a performance easily broken. The eternal calm is different. It is cultivated every day until it becomes your nature. It is the discipline of mastering silence, breath, stare, reply, face, mirror, gesture, withdrawal, all forged into one unbreakable state. At this level, confrontation itself loses its power over you. You no longer see conflict as a threat, but as an opportunity to demonstrate immovability. Every enemy, every rival, every agitator becomes the same, an actor screaming on a stage you no longer step upon. The terror this inspires cannot be overstated. People will test you, trying insult after insult, trying to find the crack. They will raise their voices, slam their fists, invade your space. But when nothing moves you, when your calm remains as steady as stone, they break. They cannot provoke you, and so they must face themselves. Their rage begins to feel like madness. Their threats begin to sound like whining. Their energy burns out against the wall of your stillness. And as they collapse, the world sees the truth. You are the one who commands not just the confrontation, but the very atmosphere. Think of what this means in practice. At work, the one who remains eternally calm becomes the anchor others orbit. In negotiation, the one who cannot be provoked becomes the authority everyone must yield to. In personal conflict, the one who shows no weakness, no trembling, no panic, is remembered long after the noise fades. Calmness outlasts chaos, silence outlasts shouts, stillness outlasts storms. This is why the eternal calm is feared, respected, and sometimes hated. It places you above the ordinary man's prison of reactivity. It makes you the rare one who cannot be moved. But here lies the most dangerous truth. Once you master eternal calm, you are no longer playing the same game. You no longer scramble to win arguments. You no longer waste breath on noise. You no longer step into battles that do not matter. You radiate something greater than strength. You radiate inevitability, and inevitability is what all men fear most. They can fight rage, they can fight arrogance, they can even fight silence, but they cannot fight what never changes. They cannot fight the man who will not be provoked. Against him, the battle is already lost. The question now is this: how close are you to that summit? When the next confrontation comes, and it will you lose yourself to panic, to anger, to pride? Or will you rise into that rare state where you do not even need to fight, because your calm has already decided the outcome? The eternal calm waits for no man. Either you climb toward it, or you remain a prisoner of storms, and those storms will not stop testing you. They are gathering even now, preparing to see what you are truly made of. If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you already knows this truth. The calmest man in the room is always the most dangerous. Rage is loud, but control is silent, and silence always wins. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to master yourself so completely that no insult, no threat, no chaos can shake you? Are you willing to be the one who unnerves others by refusing to be moved? If this message touched you, if it made sense, write in the comments, "I choose control." Let's see how many here are truly ready to wield calm as a weapon. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's important, much more than you imagine. See you there.